Moving on to another example. In this example, we are going to learn about some basic programming language constructs in JavaScript. This is how you would learn any programming language. You'll first see what programming constructs it offers. JavaScript is a fully fledged programming language, just like Java, C, C++, Python, or any of the others. It has all the usual features that you'd expect from such a programming language. Just like Python does not have types for its variables, JavaScript does not have types for its variables, but it does have variables. Variables are a core programming construct in JavaScript. It has functions, which allows you to break up your code into logical pieces. It has loops, allowing you to execute a piece of code several times. It has arrays, allowing you to store a list of any kind. It has objects, just like in an object-oriented programming language. And it has ways in which you can specify input into the program and output from the program. So it can display stuff in the form of output. It can take input from the user. Let's look at some programming constructs of JavaScript. Here is a perfectly normal HTML file which we've seen before, and once again it contains some JavaScript. So a perfectly regular HTML file, and you know that if it contains JavaScript, it has to have some special tags embedded in this file. So you'll notice that this particular HTML file once again has those special script tags which allows you to write JavaScript code in its content. But this time we have two pairs of script tags. One is in the head of the HTML file under the head tags nested inside the head tags, and the other is nested within the body tag of the HTML file. So two pairs of script tags. This is perfectly valid and it's allowed. Now the second script tag has the window.onLoad is equal to print hello world, and the print hello world function is defined in the first script tag. This again is valid. So as before, we are specifying that the function print hello world should be executed when this particular page loads. The meaning of that is exactly the same. We've just split it up into two script tags to show you that any number of script tags can be included in an HTML file. Let's look at this print hello world function in a little more detail, because that's where the meat of this logic lies. Here we have the print hello world function. There's a lot of JavaScript in there, and the first thing that ought to be apparent to you is that this function looks a lot like a program in any other language. It has all the same constructs. It has the same look and feel. Some of the individual stuff might be different though. Let's look at that. The very first thing that you'll notice is that it prompts the user to enter a number. So this statement that you see highlighted on screen asks the user to enter a number between 1 and 10. It accepts this input from the user and assigns this user input to a variable named user input. It stores that number in a variable named user input. Notice how we declare and define a variable here. Notice the var keyword. All variables are declared and defined in exactly this way. There is no variable type that is explicitly specified as a keyword. Take a look at the next statement. It is an if statement. If you've done any programming, you know that an if statement is used for evaluating conditions. An if statement allows for branching, which means it executes one block of code if the condition evaluates to true, and a different block of code if the condition evaluates to false. If statements are standard in programming languages and they are present in JavaScript as well. It uses an if conditional to test whether the number is between 1 and 10, whether the number that the user input is between 1 and 10. If this condition is true, the block of code that will be executed is interesting. Notice the document.write and notice the string that's being written out. If the condition is true, this statement modifies the HTML of the page. This is very powerful and very important. From within JavaScript, which is a completely different language, you can actually affect the HTML of the page. You can add elements to it, you can remove elements from it. In this particular case, we are adding a couple of elements and writing them out to the HTML itself. We are modifying what the user will see when he sees the page. In this example, we modify the HTML of the page using a for loop. A for loop is a very familiar programming construct if you've used any other programming language. A for loop is a way by which you can iterate and execute the same piece of code over and over again, which means here we'll start with variable I equal to 0. Notice how the loop variable is initialized using the var keyword. The var is the keyword used for initializing all variables. We initialize it to 0. We iterate up to the value that the user has input, and for every step we execute the loop body. If the original condition which we evaluated in the if statement is not satisfied, we'll go into the else portion of the if statement. It tells the user that the input was not valid. So we basically display this on screen using an alert, which is a pop-up which is shown to the user saying his response was not within 1 and 10. Again, this if-else construct is similar to how other programming languages behave.